also known as Coach Owenico, host of Transforming Relationships with Emotional Intelligence and founder of Owenico Consult. I'm honored to be your host today. I believe we can transform our relationships to live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. That is why we have created the resources to help you to improve your relationships. If you are not yet a member, please sign up at owenico.club. We have created resources and communities to support you in your journey to transforming your relationships. There you will get expert guidance and life-changing tools. That is at owenico.club. Let's get into today's topic. Today we are talking about managing stress and burnout. Managing stress and burnout. We can use emotional intelligence to manage stress and burnout. So we start with maybe defining what's emotion. Emotion is a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationship with others. That's a simple way of defining emotion. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, we mean the ability to be aware of our own emotions and those of others, and to use that information to manage ourselves and our relationships with others. Just noticing our emotion, the way we feel, and using that information to manage ourselves and manage the way we deal with others. That's a simple definition of emotional intelligence. And stress, we say, is the feeling or emotion you experience inside yourself in response to the thing, that external event or situation. The thing, event or situation is called stressor. That thing, that event or situation that's external, that causes you to have that feeling of stress, is what we call stressor. So stressor is what triggers the feeling of being stressed. So stress is typically the feeling or emotion you experience in response to a situation or an interaction. So that's maybe a simple way of expressing what stress is. And when we talk of burnout, we mean a state of emotional or mental or often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. So when we leave stress for a while to linger for some time, it leads to what we call burnout. Okay. Burnout is usually caused by problems at work, but we also see people who are parenting, or people who are taking care of others, or people who are in romantic relationships are experiencing burnout as a result of the impact of such relationships. Okay, so talking about managing stress and applying emotional intelligence skills to manage stress, we'll be looking at, first of all, identifying your stressors. What are the things? What are those things? Those things that causes you to have that feeling of stress, which we explained earlier on as stressors. Okay, so stressors are what drains your energy and triggers the feeling of depleting emotions. So being able to identify your stressors is a great step towards having a fulfilling life. Okay, so stressors are the things that keep you from being all that you can be. So the stressors are those things that happen, and you have that feeling of stress. So what can your stressors be? So we need to identify the stressors we have, or the things that can cause us that feeling of stress. Some stressors we know are things like lack of money, body image or weight, family conflict, health problems. It could be family or personal, toxic workplaces, too much workload, for few people doing the work of many people, time pressure, violent situations, job interviews, exams. These are common stressors. It may not be anything negative as such. For some people, it could be just buying a house, moving house, or even carrying out a big project. All these things are common stressors we know out there. Okay, so it's for individuals. That's the first step really towards managing stress and burnout, is identifying your stressors. What are those events, those things that happen, and you start having that feeling of stress. Now, after identifying maybe your stressors, you need to then know or notice when you are feeling stressed, or when your body is telling you, giving you notice, giving you sign of stress. So we have what we call physical symptoms of stress, we have behavioral symptoms of stress, we have emotional symptoms of stress, we have also cognitive symptoms of stress. For instance, physical symptoms of stress could be things like fatigue, indigestion or heartburn, constipation or diarrhea, difficulty breathing, blurred eyesight or vision, panic attacks, muscle aches, headaches, chest pain, high blood pressure, feeling sick, dizzy or fainting, sweating, sudden weight gain or weight loss, existing physical health problems getting worse, developing rashes or itchy skin, changes to your period or menstrual cycle depending on the gender. Okay, so these are some physical, symptoms of stress that we know. We also have behavioral symptoms of stress. How do you behave when you are stressed? These are our responsibilities to identify. Some people cry or feel tearful easily when they are stressed. Some bite their nails. Okay, so some find it hard to make decisions. Okay, inability to remember things. People find it difficult to remember things, or or their memory is slowed down at the time of stress. Okay, some snap at other people very quickly. Some are unable to concentrate. Some spend money. Okay, they do. Some shop too much, more than they usually would do, as a result of feeling stress. Okay, so behavioral signs of stress show up in various ways. For some other people, it could be the feeling of restlessness, like they can't just sit still. Some withdraw from people around them. Okay, for some, it's they experience sexual problems. So getting intimate could be difficult for them, and they lose every interest in that area. Some grind their teeth or clench their jaw. Some do not. Some people show up in not exercising, or exercising too much. Doing too little or too much of exercise, more than they would usually do. For some, it could be in form of eating too much or eating too little. For some, they pick at or itch their skin. Yeah, they scratch or itch their skin so much. For some, it leads to maybe developing smoking habits. Yeah, then they smoke to more than they used to, or even starting smoking. And for some, they use recreational drugs or drink alcohol more than they would usually do. Right, so all these are behavioral symptoms of stress. Okay, so there could equally be emotional symptoms of stress. How do people, feel when they are stressed? So some of them could be depressed, worried or tensed, neglected or lonely. Some feel anxious, nervous or afraid. Some feel irritable, angry, impatient or wound up. Some feel unable to, enjoy themselves. Some are overburdened or overwhelmed. Some are uninterested in life. Some have a sense of dread. So for some existing mental health problems, the feeling of it getting worse. Okay, so for some, they lose every sense of humor. Things they would laugh at usually, maybe they could be irritating them just because they are feeling this in this state of stress. So these are some of emotional symptoms of stress. These are some of the ways we feel when we are stressed. There could equally be cognitive, symptoms of stress. How do you use your, brain, your mental prowess when you are stressed? For some, it shows up in poor judgment. Some are forgetful and disorganized when they are stressed. For some, it will be constant worrying. Some will be inability to focus. So for some, it will be, pessimistic. They become very pessimistic. That's only seeing the negative side of things. For some, it shows up in maybe racing thoughts, and for some, it will maybe just be lack of attention. You find it difficult to give attention to things. Right. So, starting from identifying your stressors, then you notice, when your body is telling you that I'm stressed, and that's what we call emotional self-awareness. Right. Emotional self-awareness is being able to notice and label your feelings or emotions, and then connect them to their source. That's the way we describe what we call emotional self-awareness. You know yourself, you know your emotions, and that's also a key skill of emotional intelligence, being emotionally self-aware, noticing your emotions, okay, being able to label them, that is, give them, translate them to words. That's what we call, emotional self-awareness, and connecting them to their source. Now, really, labeling our emotion has a great advantage, right? So, identifying and naming your emotion. So, research has shown that, it is effective. It helps. Evidence shows that, just the act of translating our emotions into language versus just, experiencing it, simply experiencing them, can stop our brains from activating our amygdala, the fight and flight command center of the body. And this in turn helps us to be in control when we are feeling stressed. Right? So, one of those key emotional intelligence skills or practices in managing stress is about identifying that, or noticing that you are having that feeling of stress, and naming it, giving it a name, translating it into words, and then maybe connecting it to the source. Why am I feeling this way? Why is this happening? So noticing that, that's a great way of applying emotional intelligence to managing stress. So emotional intelligence helps us to make stress more manageable. It helps you to spot and tackle tough situations before things escalate. Emotional intelligence helps you to identify and manage stressful situations or events. All right, so being emotionally intelligent can help individuals in being able to manage stress. Okay, so the first thing to start, identify your stressors. Okay, what are your stressors? What is the thing happening that is making you feel the way you feel, or experience the things you're experiencing in your body? After noticing that, then give it a name. Translate that emotion into words. As simple as that sounds, it can change a lot of things. And then linking them to their source, and then finding objective ways of solving or managing those stressors, whatever that is causing that issue, in a situation where it is possible. Right? So, the practicing the skills of emotional intelligence can help us really manage stress and burnout by taking these simple steps. So, first thing, stress and burnout, can be better managed applying emotional intelligence skills. So, the first thing to do is identify your stressors, the things that cause you to feel stressed. Then recognize how to notice the signs of stress. It could be physical, it could be behavioral, it could be emotional or cognitive, signals or symptoms that your body gives you. But the ability to notice that is what we call emotional self-awareness. Then name your emotions or feelings, translate them to words. Describe how you are feeling, put it in words, and connect your emotions to their source. Why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? Why is my body behaving the way it is? And then you look at the objective ways. Consider objective ways of addressing or managing the stressor. Those things that are causing you to feel that you have identified that is causing you to feel the way you feel or behave the way you are behaving. Then you take action towards managing the stressor where possible. Some stressors you can manage, some may be out of your hand to manage. The only thing you can do is to control the way you respond to them. You can always choose your response to any of those things that are happening. Even though we have mentioned that some things as common stressors, it equally means that now that you know that those things can cause you stress, you can choose the way you want to respond to them when they happen. So you don't necessarily need to respond the way that wouldn't lead you to where you want to go or who you want to be. So you can always choose your response to those stressors that we have mentioned. So practice these skills, these little things. They seem simple, but if you practice them, you can see great changes happening. That is identifying, the stressors, these things that are causing you stress. Noticing that you are feeling stressed in the first place, and then naming their feelings or emotions, and then finding objective ways to address those stressors, and then taking action towards managing or addressing those stressors. Those are a few steps that we can take to manage stress and burnout using emotional intelligence skills. So thank you. I will really appreciate if we can practice some of these things, and also let us know whether they worked or it helped you to manage them better. Thank you very much for listening, and keep practicing these skills and improve your relationships. As we know, the good life is built with good relationships. So do what you can to improve the relationships in your life. Thank you.